Texting. Welcome back to the Mid-Sack. It is a wet my whistle Wednesday here in the Mid-Sack. I am the highly questionable Arjun Miliaccio, flying solo tonight. The redoubtable one is in slumberland again. Someday, a boy with a dream will grow to be a man and learn how to be one when it comes to time management skills. Anyway, he'll be back on Friday or Saturday night, probably Saturday night. But tonight I'm flying solo, all things Boston sports. It is IDD for those of you I do not disagree. Segment 1, all things New England Patriots 1-0. I know, the reason this is coming 3 days later is it took me 3 days to get off the floor because I fainted. The New England Patriots upset, at least in the preseason football rankings, take them from what they're worth. I mean, and again, it's kind of like middle of the road. Some of them are dead on, some of them are out in left field, But in the preseason rankings, which we posted last week, the Cincinnati Bengals were the 7th ranked team by NFL.com and others in terms of the 7th best team in the entire league, regardless of conference. That's where they were rated. A lot of that was based on the health of Joe Burrow, who was supposedly 100% healthy. T. Higgins did not play in this game. He's their second receiver, but Jamar Chase was there. They still have an explosive offense. At least we thought they did. But the Patriots' 7th-ranked defense from last year lived up to its billing and kept them at bay. In fact, they held them to under 300 yards of total offense. As the Patriots go into Cincinnati and win 16-10 in a very old-school smash-mouth rock fight, which will remind you back of the early Brady Belichick days when they were devoid of weapons on the outside and that you run the ball, you don't turn the ball over, you play sound defense. But this was different than a sound defense because this Patriot defense didn't sit back and let Cincinnati move between the 20s. No, as I said just a second ago, they had less than 300 total yards of offense. Okay, less than that for the entire game. In fact, what they had, looking at the box score here, team stats, they had a total of, 224 yards. And that's called not letting them move between the 20s. That's called, we're going to attack, we're going to come after you, we're going to make you uncomfortable, Mr. Burrow. And our secondary is going to limit everything you do, which they did. The Patriots defense is as advertised, and it showed it on Sunday. As I said before the season started, their defense would keep them in games if they stay healthy because they're a dominant defense. They were 7th last year. Their number one corner, who's back and played like it, held Jamar Chase to 3 catches, 14 yards when he matched up on him just one-on-one. So that would be Gonzalez, who won Rookie of the Month in his first month last year, and then he got hurt in the Dallas game. We never saw him again. So he was on his way to a hell of a rookie season. The Patriots didn't have him, and they lost Judon in the same game for the season, and they still finished 7th. Well, this kid is back. Keon White, who is the one who made Matt Judon expendable, had 2.5 sacks, 5 pressures, 4 tackles, a forced fumble, I believe. He was everywhere, and they got pressure with 4 without having to blitz a lot. This is why Matt Judon is now down in Atlanta, because of this kid Keon White and his devastating ability off the edge. So him and Uche were the Patriots' pass rush. They kept Joe Burrow from getting comfortable, really, ever. And the Pats got a couple of turnovers when they needed them. And the offense ran for 170 yards on 39 carries. That's 7 more attempts, by the way, than the Ravens had last Thursday night. So when you think about this, what do you think about this? 39 carries, 4.4 yards per carry. Not bad. The Patriots only had 5 penalties in the whole game. Given what we saw 2 weeks ago against Washington, where it seemed like every other play there was a penalty on the Pats' offensive line for just showing up, they cleaned up a lot of their act. Not every penalty was even on the offense. So the line, for the most part, for one game, did something that nobody, including myself, thought we'd see them do pretty much all season, which was they opened up holes. They were physical. At times, there were a multitude of times where they had 6 offensive line in the game at once. They made no secret of what they were going to do to Cincinnati, and they ran the ball right down their throat, and they sustained it throughout the entire game, and they were able to sustain it because they didn't turn the ball over. They kept out a 3rd and long for as much as they could. And when they did get a 3rd and long, Jacoby Myers made just enough plays, including running. He was 7 rushes, 32 yards, so he was able to run. He was only sacked once. No turnovers. He had one bad. It wasn't a bad decision. It was a bad throw. He went in the end zone, the corner for Hunter Henry, and it would have been. It was if he put it where he was supposed to, it would have been a touchdown. But it was a bad throw. He threw it off his back foot. Henry became a defensive back and broke it up. That was probably the one real bad throw he made. He made another one that was He overthrew a guy, but overall, Jacoby Brissett played well, given what he's standing behind. So no mistakes. 15 out of 24, 120 yards, whatever it was. Won't blow anybody's hair back, but no mistakes. He ran 7 times again, 32 yards, over 4 yards a carry, and 1 sack. And he got out of trouble. And when he had to use his legs, he did, but he didn't overdo it. Okay? The Patriots had 7 different guys catch passes, but they ran for $170. Now, here's the thing. And this is where I give Gerard Mayo credit. And let's be fair here. Gerard Mayo has taken a lot of criticism so far, because no one really knew where he stood on things. No one knew how much power he had. Was he in control? What is he doing here? Is he going to be a head coach, or is he going to be a yes man? 2 things can be true. He can be a player's coach and be a head coach and put his foot down when he has to. But he also talks about getting helping these players become the best versions of themselves, which is the modern way of saying, getting these guys to take their head. The old school way is what I would just said, but he's doing it the modern way, and so far he's doing it with unswerving ability. So you have to tip your cap to him. Now, look, they did their research. Last year, let's be clear about something here. Last year, Cincinnati defensively was 26th in the NFL against the run. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, if you want to stay in a game, and I've said this before, when you're trying to win on the road in the NFL, 3 things must be consistent, and 2 of them travel. 1 is a running game, 2 is defense. Those things travel. The Pats have Ramondre Stevenson. He's a 1,000-yard back if he's healthy. Okay? Their defense was set. Those things are there. They travel. 0 turnovers. So when you go on the road and you're trying to take the air out of the ball and shorten the game and limit a highly explosive quarterback in an offense, what do? You run the ball right down their throat. Okay? You don't turn the ball over and put your defense in harm's way. And when you do get on defense, you make this team go, 14, 15, 16 play drives and see if they can sustain it. Cincinnati only had 2 penalties in the game, so it wasn't like they shot themselves in the foot. The Pats defense just outplayed the Cincinnati offense. Now, T. Higgins wasn't there, and that certainly didn't hurt. Okay? But there were a lot of questions that we don't have Barmore right now, who's our best down lineman. He's not playing. So that, to me, those negate each other. So to me, that's a fair swap. But what the Patriots were able to do defensively in terms of making Joe Burrow uncomfortable, making him get to his second and third read, step up in the pocket, hesitate on his throws, knocking receivers off their routes, and when they caught the ball, they put them on the ground. There wasn't a lot of yak. That's yards after catch for those of you who don't know any better. There wasn't a lot of that after a Cincinnati Bengal receiver caught the ball, if in fact they did catch the ball. The Patriots were aggressive. They hit. I mean, there was 4 or 5 hits out of that secondary. We're like, damn, okay, football's back. These were hits. And they put them down when they hit them. So there was no yak, none of that stuff. They kept Jamar Chase in check. They limited their running game. And they made Joe Burrow, who's widely regarded as the one, well, he is the one quarterback that's beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He's the only one because Tom Brady's retired. Tom Brady's the only one that's done it. He's done it twice. Burrow's the only other one that's beaten this guy in the playoffs. So they made him look very pedestrian. Okay? And that was good enough to get a 16-10 win on the road and send fireworks up in Foxborough. And again, no one up there has any delusions of grandeur. These are not Cowboy fans. No one up there is singing Super Bowl or even wild card. No. This for 1 week tempers expectations and tempers the dread that we think is still coming. Because here's the question, and it's a real one. Is this sustainable in today's NFL? Can they win like this over the course of 17 games? Conventional wisdom would tell you no. Now again, there's always an exception to the rule, and I'm not saying that they're not. I don't know. It's 1 game. I just know this. It was a great win against in a hostile environment against a good opponent. Okay? That counts for a lot because no one thought they'd ever play like this against a team of that caliber. Okay? So that's a check in the box for Gerard Mayo. That team, they were more prepared. They were ready. They had a tougher training camp. People talked about what he put them through in training camp. They were better conditioned. They looked like the better conditioned team in the fourth quarter. And when Cincinnati punted that ball with 3:16 to go, the Patriots were like, "You're not getting the ball back. You shouldn't have played. You'd have been better off going for it." And they made sure that Joe Burrow never got another crack at this. Okay, So they knew they were bad against the run. They shoved it down their throat. They gave Jacoby Brissett enough time, and when he didn't have time, he was smart enough to know when to get out of the pocket, when to run, when to throw it away, and when to slide. And that's what he needed to be, and that's what he was for one game. So we know they can do it. That question, okay, they can do it. Can they sustain it? That is the question. And I don't know the answer to that question, and neither do you, if we're being honest. But it's going to be interesting because at least for 1 week, we don't have to talk about what I thought we were going to talk about was a 34-10 drubbing or a 31-16 or whatever I thought it was going to be. 28-3, whatever. It was everything that I hoped and never thought could be. That type of performance I thought we might see in the second half of the season, maybe. And that would depend on the opponent, maybe. So tip of the cap to Gerard Mayo in getting his first win as a head coach. Well-deserved, well-earned, and he showed he can coach. He can coach. All right, so they set up week 2 now. This gets very interesting. I mean, the thing about football is because, and I know they have 17 games now as opposed to 16, but the NFL season, by comparison to the other 3 sports, one game is like 10 games. It really is because they only play 17 of them. So this sets up a very interesting matchup on Sunday with the Seattle Seahawks, who also won in week 1. But back to that question about can they win playing this style for an entire season? I don't know about the season, but I do know this. Cincinnati was 26th against the run last year. The Seattle Seahawks were 31st. So at least on paper, the Patriots can probably do this again. Now, Seattle's got the same tape, or will have it watched the same game that we watched over the weekend. So what they're going to do is, if they're smart, is they're going to put 7 or 8 in the box, and they're going to say, okay, we know you can run. Well, what happens when you can't run? Okay? Because if Seattle has a shred of football knowledge in between the ears of their coaching staff, they are not going to come out in a base nickel or a base dime and let the Patriots go between the tackles. Because if they do, the Patriots will run it down their throat the same way they did it to Cincinnati. Seattle's, I got to believe, is not that stupid. I hope they are, but I doubt it. Okay, so here's the question. When they put 7 or 8 in the box, can these receivers on the outside win? And can this offensive line, again, now here's the thing. I said before the season started, I was afraid of when whoever the quarterback was for the Patriots, what's going to happen when this guy has to drop back 30 to 40 times in a football game? Because on Sunday, it was 24 pass attempts. That's nice. 25 or less, that's nice. That means you're running the ball, okay? But what's going to happen when a team says you're not going to run the ball? And we're going to put more people in the box than you can block to make sure you can't run the ball. So you're going to have to throw it. And by the way, by putting one more guy in the box than you can block on a run, that also applies to the passing game. So they can blitz and bring one more than you can block. What's going to happen then? Because that's the next question. That's the question that's really been in the back of our minds since training camp anyway. Because this guy has to drop back 30 plus times a game. Is he going to walk off that field? Or is he going to be carried off that field? That's the question that we don't know. And I hope, for my sanity, Seattle forces New England to answer that question this Sunday, because I'd rather know now. And by the way, I think they'd rather know now. Okay, because then if you know what you have to fix, because clearly they didn't go out and get the offensive lineman I wanted them to get in the offseason. If he gets sacked 5 times on Sunday and throws a pick or a deflected pick or something and gets knocked out of the game, I don't want that to happen. I like Jacoby Brissett. I don't want that to happen to him. But if the worst case scenario that we fear happens, then the Patriots are forced to address it now, because it's no longer preseason. Now it's the regular season. Now what do? You can't keep it up like this. You have to do something. Or is what we saw on Sunday not an aberration? And is this line starting to figure some things out? And will they get better as the season goes on? Either way, we're going to find out, unless, of course, Seattle's a bunch of idiots and comes out, like I said, in a base nickel or a base dime and lets the Patriots continue to run the ball between the tackles. If they do, great. But that's not smart. That's not smart. If Cincinnati puts in this or Seattle puts in that tape and sees what we saw, they'd be crazy to do that. They'd be crazy to do that. Okay? They're going to have to put 7 or 8 in the box. And now here's where we start to find out how good Gerard Mayo is, because he has to anticipate this. He knows they're going to have this tape. There better be a plan B in the form of a passing game that makes sense. Now, the good thing about Sunday was, and I've heard a lot of the Boston media say this, there really wasn't a whole lot of plays like during the Matt Patricia days, and even last year, because Bill O'Brien was hamstrung because he didn't have any of his coaches, and Mac Jones had no weapons. That's not the case now. They have some weapons. I said this receiving core has some talent, has some potential. Tyquan Thornton for 1 week stayed healthy and looked pretty good out there. 2 catches, 31 yards. He was only targeted twice, though, I think. Or one time he was overthrown. But he held on to the ball. He made hits in traffic. He moved the chains. He was productive, given they only threw the ball 24 times. But there's a very good chance they're not going to be throwing the ball 24 times this Sunday. They're going to have to throw it 30 plus because Seattle's going to stick 7 or 8 in the box. Here's where we're going to find out. And it's not just about Mayo's coaching. Can this personnel do the job? Can you win throwing the football when the opponent says you're not going to run it? That's the question. I'm not going to predict this game tonight. I'll predict it Saturday night when Tom is here. But I want you to think about that over the next couple of days, because that's really the question. Seattle's going to see this tape. They stunk against the run last year. Again, they were the second worst team. They were worse than Cincinnati was. So they know what that New England's like. Well, they're going to try and run it on us. They ran on us, and we. So how is Seattle going to combat that? Okay, now if you go back to we didn't look at Seattle. Seattle won on Sunday, but let's look at something here since we're putting on our coaching and thinking caps here. If we go back to the Seahawks game, and again they won. That was a close game. They beat Denver. It was 26-20. Where is that game? Here we go. 26-20. It was in Seattle. When you look at the box score, they really rattled Bo Nix. And now here's the thing that I don't understand about Denver. And this really goes to Sean Payton. And again, I don't have the tape of the game, so I'm not sure what happened. But Denver threw the ball 42 times. They ran it 25 times for 99 yards, 4 yards a carry, solid, but they didn't really try to exploit them. And again, maybe Seattle because Denver knew how bad they were at running the ball. Maybe they came out and said, you're not going to run it on us, and made them throw. Okay, Seattle has a pretty good secondary. They limited Bo Nix to 26 of 42, 138 yards, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. His QBR was 31. His rating was 47.5. He was a rookie, first start. They said, all right, rookie, let's see what you got. We're not going to let you run it on us. Maybe that's what happened. Okay? Jacoby Brissett is a 9-year veteran. So he's got a lot of experience on Bo Nix. What's going to happen, when Seattle tries to pull this with New England? What is New England going to do to counter it? I like the receiving core. There's young talent there. It's good talent. Let's see what it becomes. I don't know what its potential is, but there's some potential there. But it may get tested, and common sense would tell you it's going to get tested this Sunday because of the 170 they dropped on Cincinnati. Seattle would be crazy to line up in any kind of a defense that's going to permit that or give it the chance of happening. Because if they do, then the Patriots' defense, which Seattle should be worried about, okay, is going to be able to pin their ears back and go after this guy. This guy being Geno Smith, who had a pretty good 18 for 25, 171, 1 TD, 1 interception. He was sacked twice. Seattle did run for 146 yards on 33 carries. So they ran it more than they threw it. Tyler Lockett, who to me is the best receiver on that team. I know DK Metcalf is there, but Tyler Lockett's the most reliable one. He was 6 for 77. To me, he's the one you got to take out of the offense. He's the one that moves the chains. Metcalf is the big play guy, and he's awesome. I love Metcalf. He could have been a Patriot. If Belichick wasn't a donkey, he would have been. But Lockett, to me, is the guy in the passing game you've got to stop. So if I'm the Patriots, and this is a fair question too, defensively, am I putting Gonzalez on Lockett one-on-one, and am I doubling Metcalf, or am I putting Gonzalez on Metcalf one-on-one and am I doubling Lockett? I have the feeling, all in all, they're going to do a little bit of both. Because they're going to, the key to what Mayo did great on Sunday, and one of the reasons they really confused Burrow, is they kept switching up their coverages. They didn't stay in one thing for too long. They gave him a lot of different looks. And they have a secondary that they can do that with. And if they can rush 4, like they did on Sunday, and they can drop 7, then they can really make things interesting. So that's an interesting question to think about in the chess pieces. How are they going to defend Lockett and Metcalf in the passing game? Look, Seattle has a running back who, Kenneth Walker III. If you play fantasy football, you know who this guy is. He is a stud. 20 carries, 103 yards, 5.2 a carry, and a touchdown. He also had 2 catches. Well, they didn't kill him in the passing game, but again, 20 carries, 103 yards. He's a very good running back. So you got to key on him too. They got a balanced offense. They can run it on you and they can throw it on you. So the Pats defense is going to have like last Sunday, they have the work cut out for them, but they're going to be at home. Seattle is worse against the run. So conventional wisdom again says they're not going to let the Patriots line up and hit them in the mouth. They're going to make them throw it. I am very curious to see what the counter is to this from the Patriots. I think we all are. What's going to happen if Jacoby Brissett has to drop back 30-plus times? Because he might. He might. I think the receivers are good enough. Is the line good enough? 1 sack on Sunday, but again, it was 24 attempts, and they did a good job running the ball, so it was a lot of 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 5s. They were able to, it wasn't like they could pin their ears back a lot. So I'm interested to see how this offense counters what I think Seattle's going to try to do, which is load up against the run. So we'll talk about that more on Saturday night. But kudos to them for 1 week. Hey, big win, well earned, very happy for them, proud of them, proud of the players and the coaching staff, because again they've been getting blasted up there, and for 1 week, even the most cynical or negative of whatever's had to sit there and go, okay, that looked legitimate. For the first time in a long time, they look like a legit football team. We will discuss this again on Saturday night. We'll give you a prediction on Saturday night. Coming back, segment 2, Boston College. Boston College, nationally ranked 24th, prepping for their big showdown with number 6 Missouri. We will preview that game coming right up in segment 2. And also give you the prediction for tomorrow night, Buffalo, Miami. That is a game of interest now, isn't it, Patriot fans, on Thursday Night Football. Segment 2 coming right up.